Open up a bottle, take a sip and swallow. Thinking about God and all the dreams you didn't follow. Now you're dressing formal, I've seen this before. As you try to mitigate your fear of being normal, just step through the portal, no need to be cordial. You could be immortal if you take a risk. Could you take a risk? Living through your doses, oh my holy Moses. Sleeping on the bed of thorns and still you call them roses. Speaking to the masses, still can't find your glasses. Driving like you're stalling up until it finally crashes. Babies breathing ashes, lights so bright it flashes. Now that outfit clashes, never got a kiss. Birds on the branches, on substances. Broken hearts, we cooking, starving, new romances. What does it matter if it's broken and shattered? Battleships with a side of chips on silver platters. Step out on the dance floor, this is what you asked for. Such a pretty face, where was it underneath the mask? Or time for some revisions, time for bad decisions. Tune into the galaxy, turn off your television. Making your incisions, dropping subdivisions on a different mission. Look at what you missed. Look at what you missed. Visceral emotions, testing your devotion. My outward can change when you stop going through the motion. Girl of alabaster, dance a little faster. Find another lover, cause the former was a bastard. Crucibles and casters, looking for an answer. Settled on a master, you were made for this. Birds on the branches, on circumstances. Broken hearts, we cooking, starving, new romances. What does it matter if it's broken and shattered? Battleships with a side of chips on silver platters. Battleships with a side of chips on silver platters.
No. Okay. Unfortunately, what do I have on? Oh, I have the audio on. That's why it's weird. Okay, there we go. So I have toboki that I'm gonna be eating. I apologize if that's gross. The song that I was playing was Silver Platters by Les Gold. But that's not important. Moving on. I hear an echo on my end. Is audio okay for you guys? I'm trying to figure that out. And evidently my glasses aren't working because I still feel blind. Haha. Okay, that was it. Perfect. Okay, so we actually record this one so I can edit it later. So today I'm starting off with not TikToks. I'm starting off with Star Trek. Um, I personally, I'm a Star Trek fan. You haven't seen the tattoo because it's on my ankle and it's very weird trying to get that in frame. Um, but the original Star Trek came out in the 1960s, and what I was complaining about last time was how media sucks ass now for a lot of reasons, but one major one is that there's an inability to write good stories to convey messages without being preachy. I don't know why it took me a minute to find that word. So I'm just going to bring on the first clip so that you can see exactly what I mean. They did it in the 1960s for a very controversial topic. Why can't we do it now?
Your report to the Federation was a tissue of lies. You described environmental, physical, cultural conditions that would make Gideon a paradise.
And so it was. A long, long time ago, what we described was true. The atmosphere on Gideon has always been germ-free, and the people flourished in their physical and spiritual perfection. Eventually, even the lifespan increased. Death became almost unknown to us. It occurred only when the body could no longer regenerate itself. And that happens now only to the very old.
Those are conditions most people would envy.
But Gideon did not find it enviable. The birth rate continued to rise, and the population grew, until now Gideon is encased in a living mass who can find no rest, no peace, no joy.
Then why haven't you introduced any of the new techniques to sterilize men and women?
Every organ renews itself. It would be impossible.
Then let your people learn about the devices to safely prevent conception. The Federation will provide anything you need.
But you see, the people of Gideon have always believed that life is sacred. That the
I love this because it was literally like Captain Kirk's like, we can give you condoms. We can do it. We can bring you birth control. And then you don't have to cause a plague on your planet. They're like, no. We prefer the plague. We prefer genocide over condoms. That makes the most sense, right?
love of life is the greatest gift. That is the one unshakable truth of Gideon. And this overwhelming love of life has developed our regenerative capacity and our great longevity.
And the great misery which you now face.
That is bitterly true, Captain. Nevertheless, we cannot deny the truth which shaped our evolution.
So, not only did this come out in like the 1960s, but it's still relevant today. It's still relevant in the year 2023 with the abortion bans, and now they're coming after no-fault marriage, all these things. It's still relevant. I'm not doing the math, but I think that's at least, 70 years? 60, 40 plus 20, 60 years. 60 years ago, and it's still relevant. And when I first watched this, I was grounded. My parents went on a cruise without me for Thanksgiving. I was at my cousin's house. So I binged all of Star Trek over the course of 1 week. Those episodes are a lot longer than modern episodes. They're like legitimately like an hour long. So I just didn't sleep for like a solid week and a half. But I did it. And when I watched this, my first thought was not, this is an allegory about abortion and birth control. No, my first thought was like, Star Trek, cool. Captain Kirk had sex. And it wasn't with Mr. Spock. And even now when I rewatch these episodes, I don't have to like physically turn off the brain switch to enjoy it, because all of the stories have like a topical meaning. Like they have the, we are in outer space and there's aliens taking people's brains. And then there's like the deeper meaning. They're both there, but it's not being shoved down your throat, even though this is incredibly progressive for its time period. You're just watching the Star Trek show. And that's what I really love about older media. It's not being shoved down your throat. They're not preaching. They're telling a story that has a purpose. And you don't ever feel like you're being cornered about it. Now compare this to Big Mouth. And I say this with some sadness. I do. That I did watch every season of Big Mouth. See, I started when it came out in high school, and so I think that it was aimed at teenagers. Anyway, like, you all have that cringe era, so I watched it, and then I'm the kind of person who prefers to finish series unless they're really egregious. And then I was like, I'll do like a video on it, which never happened because now I live in Cambodia and I can't use my parents' Netflix. But either way, I've seen a lot of Big Mouth, and it's one of the preacher shows out there, and one that I think of on the top of my head because I'm cringe and don't watch new media. I just watch cartoons from the 1980s. So, I'm gonna roll the clip.
Hey guys, I'm back. Whoa, are you painting my room pink?
Actually, it's called bubblegum nostalgia.
It matches this dope ballerina lamp that I got for the baby.
And this headband I got, in case she's bald.
Guys, they got the headband. What do I do?
This is your chance. You can save that baby from the clutches of big gender.
Yeah, be the change you want to see in your dad's shitty apartment.
Hey guys, I've been giving it a think and just wondering if maybe you should raise the baby, gender neutral.
Oh, that's a great idea. What does that idea mean?
Well, we wouldn't assign them a gender. We'd get them gender neutral clothes and toys. We'd use gender neutral pronouns.
So she would wear the headband like a belt, or?
No, more like they wouldn't wear the headband at all because it's oppressive.
Yeah, but hold on. We're gonna raise our daughter to be a strong woman.
Oh, yeah. We're raising a strong woman.
Just like you, Josie.
No. Oh, you should raise a strong person.
Right. Strong person is better.
Okay, look, if one day she realizes that she's not a girl, I will totally accept that. But until then, we're raising her as a girl.
Yes. We gotta let the girl person decide. Pro-choice, Jessie.
But why force all this gendered bullshit onto a baby? Girls can't fix sinks. Boys aren't allowed to cry. It all sucks.
No. actually, what sucks is you storming into this bubblegum nostalgia room and making me feel bad for wanting a little girl.
Just say baby.
Ugh, leave me alone. I'm too young to be a stepmom.
All right, this is how change happens. One crying pregnant.
Now, I don't know what I did to make it not work this time, and it worked fine last time.
Your report to the Federation.
Testing. Okay, so desktop audio works, but not the other one. Testing. No, like why? Okay. I'm gonna assume that it's working, and I'm gonna put the chat thingy on my phone. And then this way, I don't embarrass myself twice in one night. So, hold on a second. This is why I'm glad that I decided to record it on my own. There's like a 1 minute delay between this, which is probably good because the first time that I did a stream, I flashed my friend. It was a stream with just me and two of my friends, thankfully. But like I forgot that I had like no bra on, and I used my shirt to wipe my mouth, and then I flashed the entire 3 people. I don't think that'll happen again. Like I'm pretty sure, but just in case, that little lag is okay. Okay, give me just 1 second to find the chat thingy. We've gone over my horribleness with technology, but this way I don't have to do that a second time. I'm glad you guys can't hear it, but there's like a band at the bar downstairs that's playing super loud. That hopefully no one will ever hear. Okay. Cool. Now I have a thingy I can look at during this. Cool. Do I need to start over from the Star Trek thing? How far back do I need to go? Just big mouth. Okay, good. I know there's a tinniness because I can hear it on my end, but I don't know where it's coming from. Unfortunately. And it always comes up no matter, like, I don't know how to make it go away on my end. Ah, I found it. Okay. No, I did not find it. Yes, I did. Okay, cool.
Hey guys, I'm back. Whoa, are you painting my room pink?
Actually, it's called
Fuck,
bubblegum
no, it's still an issue.
nostalgia.
It matches this dope ballerina
Hold
lamp that
on.
I got for. The baby.
And this headband I got, in case she's bald.
Guys, they got the headband. What do I do?
This is your chance. You can save that baby from the clutches of big gender.
Yeah, be the change.
I love that. It's big gender. Obviously, it's the heteropatriarchy.
You want to see in your dad's shitty apartment.
Hey guys, I've been giving it a think and just wondering if maybe you should raise the baby, gender neutral.
Oh, that's a great idea. What does that idea mean?
Well, we wouldn't assign them a gender. We'd get them gender neutral clothes and toys. We'd use gender neutral pronouns.
So everything except for that last thing was a good thing. Like, everything except for that last thing. Ah, I figured it out. I have to mute my computer when I start talking. Sorry. Like, raising your kid without having, expectations of how they're going to behave. Like, from the womb, people start treating their children differently. Like, that's an issue to the point where, the tone used to speak to girls versus boys in the womb changes. And then when it comes to actual newborn babies, my mom used to work in a daycare. This is a common issue where people will bring in their baby and be like, she's too chunky, you don't feed her as much. That's a child. You're supposed to feed it. The baby is supposed to be chunky. And so you have kids, babies, little girls being starved from as young as freaking 2 months old because they're chunky, because they're already being used as decorations by their parents. It's the clothing we put on girls. At a young age, I get it. Babies are cute. You want to dress them up. But when you put a little girl into the headband that literally hurts her skull, you put her in the frilly dress that can't get dirty, you are already restricting her in ways that you're not restricting, if you had a son at the same age. Exactly. The female fetus is treated differently from a very young age. And so, I agree with, raise your kid gender neutral. Put your kid in comfortable clothes. Let them explore. But why in the hell are you going to refer to a female child as they? Babies aren't really, sexually dimorphic for, a decent point in time. When they hit, toddlerhood, girls tend to be taller and grow faster. But besides that, all you're doing when referring to your child with they pronouns is going to mess up their ability to, take up language patterns. Which is so annoying that, a lot of languages don't even have the capacity to refer to someone with they, them pronouns singularly. It's so English, Western-centric to do that. And if you try to raise a kid like that, not only are they going to be othered and they're going to probably have an issue with understanding language, but it's just, why? Why?
She would wear the headband like a belt, or?
No, more like they wouldn't wear the headband at all because it's oppressive.
Yeah, but hold on. We're gonna raise our daughter to be a strong woman.
Oh, yeah. We're raising a strong woman.
Just like you, Jesse.
No, you should raise a strong person.
Right. Strong person is better.
Okay, look. If one day she realizes that she's not a girl, I will totally accept that. But until then, we're raising her as a girl.
Yes. We gotta let the girl person decide. Pro-choice, Jesse.
But why force all this gendered bullshit onto a baby? Girls can't fix sinks. Boys aren't allowed to cry. It all sucks.
No.
One thing is worse than the other there. Having a baby who, boys, okay, you shouldn't cry. Boo-hoo. You still cry, you're going to get all the attention around the world because when men cry, it's given more attention than when women are crying or in pain. We're considered to be emotional creatures. So we already aren't like that's not like it's exactly a benefit. And the fact that it's boys don't cry versus girls are not educated and are raised to be wives, to be traded off from father to husband. Those are two different levels of like they're two different levels, not the same thing. Not the same thing.
Well, actually, what sucks is you storming into this bubblegum nostalgia room and making me feel bad for wanting a little girl.
Just say baby.
Ugh, leave me alone.
Look, all I'm saying, some people do just want a baby girl. Like, if I'm gonna have a baby with all the sex selective abortions that go on, the missing population in China and India, I want a baby girl. And I don't see what the issue is with, like, typically, I mean, women bond with both, like, their kids regardless of the sex, but, like, if you want a girl, what's the issue? This is Big Mouth Bird. Don't watch it. I made the mistake of watching the show when I was in high school, and then I have an issue where, like, I can't stop watching a show until it's over, even if it's really bad, unless it's super bad. And then I was like, I'll make a YouTube video about this, and then I never did because it sucks a lot. Anyhow, I know this was a very prolonged experience because of the technological issues, but my point was, Mark of Gideon, Star Trek. It gave you a message in a clear, concise way that was like thematically relevant and interesting based on like the story. You weren't pulled out of it. You weren't aware that like I am being lectured at. It was just, this is the issue of the show today, and here's a way to solve it. You didn't feel pulled out of the story by the message they were trying to give you. And so then you have something like Big Mouth, where they are literally lecturing you about this topic. And the thing is, I cut it off before, but prior to this was a whole song about gender. And they have other ones about like asexuality, and like these kids are like supposed to be like middle school, like 13 or something. The amount of sex things that get discussed in here and treated as normal. They're very, very preachy about all of it, to where even if you like the show because it's like, I don't know, Family Guy light, it's preaching to you. You know that it's preaching to you. It preaches to you pretty much in every single season, more than like at least once an episode. And when it comes to cartoons, when it comes to TV shows, I love cartoons. Like, I refused to watch anything but cartoons until I was 13. And yet I find myself rewatching older and older shows because even if they have issues, like they're not exactly dealing with gay characters very well, or they have a racist joke, I would rather look at it, know that this is not something that people would produce the same way today, that it's a product of its time, and take it for what it is because it's a better and more entertaining experience than watching something like this. And I want to show you what they did to one of my favorite fandoms. My favorite fandom was Transformers. I collected over like 130 comic books from the IDW run. They're in like a locked case in my parents' garage. I tried to make a Starscream cardboard cutout cosplay for Dragon Con. I had novelizations. I've seen pretty much every cartoon from Transformers. So obviously I care about it, and look what they did to my baby.
Ooh, I like your pins. I am Nightshade. My pronouns are they, them.
That's just you saying a bunch of things.
Why did they do that to a robot? There are two ways I can explain this to you. The normal way, or like the I had too much free time as a teenager way. Either way, they are not sexually dimorphic. They don't have like female and male robots. Like in the IDW run, they basically do it as like a culture shock, like a culture exchange thing, where like they visited other alien planets, thought it was cool, wee-hoo. RC is like the only Cybertronian one, like long run, and she's created that way because she was experimented on to have mental mess ups. Why would this creature, which is an Earth-born creature, have pronouns when you don't have sex? You don't have a uterus. Why would you have gender if you don't have a sex? Sex and gender go together. Transformers don't have sex. I mean, they might have that kind of sex, but they're not sex. They don't have penises and vaginas. So there would be no, like, they have class issues. They have I'm poor, you're rich, and we have war over that. But they don't have patriarchy because they don't have gender because they don't have sex. You ruined it.
I'm she, they, but you already know that.
Yeah. Yes, I fucking did. With that haircut. Yeah, I knew you were some kind of pronoun haver.
Sometimes the world can be a scary place. It's hard to know who's dangerous or not.
Bad touch, stranger danger.
Who's dangerous to you with your Starbucks haircut? I mean, what, you're afraid of the Karen who's gonna ask you to remake her drink when you did it wrong? What exactly are you afraid of, middle-class white teenager?
That's true, though disappointing.
Hey, it's okay. I know I'm safe when I'm with my friends or other non-binary people.
No.
Oh, so, you know, I don't even have commentary for this one. I just want you to know that it hurts me in my heart. It hurts me a lot.
Non-binary?
People who aren't female or male.
That's bullshit. Yeah, it's bullshit.
Okay. So, you're obviously female. You are female. Like, she didn't even say boy or girl, or like, she said she went for male and female are sex terms. You are female. We can see it, we can hear it. The robot is voiced by a guy, as far as I can tell. And again, Transformers have no reason to have biological sex. This whole conversation is so fucking stupid.
I'm sorry, I shouldn't have assumed.
I always knew my pronouns felt right, but what a wonderful word for a wonderful experience.
That's all inspiring stuff.
I don't have any alcohol. What am I supposed to do about these feelings? All I have is water. I hate this so much. And when you get shows like that, all the conservative channels are like, they're indoctrinating our children. They don't. All those channels are doing that, right? Some of us are legitimate Transformers fans, and all I'm thinking about is not just this is stupid from an ideological standpoint, but this is stupid from like a story writing standpoint. Like, you could have done something somewhat similar to a patriarchy. First off, they have like there's different sizes of Transformers. You could have easily made it like a size thing where like those who are smaller are treated as a lesser class, and that could have been an allegory for the patriarchy if that's what you wanted to go with. But they didn't. They did nothing but lecture at you for, I'm pretty sure that scene is longer, and I know that there is more things where like Optimus Prime is like, oh, I didn't know that wasn't your pronoun, I'm sorry. They didn't even use Peter Cullen for this season. So whatever. And compare that, this super interesting franchise has turned into this instead of like
We need to sound the alarm!
Out of the question. Megatron will undoubtedly hold us responsible.
But we are!
Well, you are, mostly. Anyway, his lordship doesn't need to know that. Not if we handle this the right way.
Meaning?
Use your head, knockout. This ship is crawling with highly trained Viacon troopers armed for combat. The moment Silas attempts to feed, they will neutralize him for us. Problem solved.
I'm not gonna bore you with the whole scene if you're not a Transformers fan, but I just mean look at the difference of quality and just storytelling. Why are you guys arguing about MCR in the comments? Some of you are emo. Some people will always be emo. Some people went from emo to trans. It's okay. Again, I suffered by getting rice cake in my mouth before trying to talk. Anyway, this is something that I've just found very annoying. I don't want to linger on it too long because I'll probably make a video on it later. But the difference in entertainment and the way that it becomes difficult to watch TV shows when they're all so preachy to you. Zesty, I wasn't sure what you were doing. I glanced down and I saw a lot of MCR. My point being just, I'm very tired of turning on the TV screen and seeing trans representation everywhere. Not because I can't, deal with people who are different than me. Not because, just I can't stand seeing different ideologies. It's representative of a very woman-hating culture, number one. And then two, it's just not well written. I can watch things that I don't ideologically agree with. They have value even if I don't agree with what I'm reading or watching or whatever. It doesn't have value if it's fucking stupid. So while I was searching the internet for things to show, because trust me, I was supposed to make the TikToks several days ago, but then my landlord was like, I think your AC's broken, and I'm babysitting a dog, and I'm not sure if I'm allowed to have a dog in the building, so I had to spend the whole day out of my apartment, and then he didn't come by anyway. So anyway, last minute things, and I didn't have a theme like I was planning on. But I found this thing called the button test, so we're gonna watch that.
So there's a test that's been going on in the transgender community for years called the button test. And this is a test to determine whether or not a questioning person may be transgender. So the test goes like this. Imagine there's a button that's placed in front of you, and it will change your gender. Everybody will see you as that gender, and imagine you've always been that gender. Do you press it? Now usually there's also a catch added to the end. It will only appear in front of you once, so this button cannot be reversed. Once you press it, your gender is changed permanently. So if you're a questioning person and you found yourself answering yes before I got to the end of that sentence, that's a very common reaction among questioning people that later do transition. So the reason that this works is because most pre-transition people would love to exist as their desired gender, but the process of transition is far too scary for them. And I just want to let those people know that I was scared too whenever I transitioned, but being scared...
Oh, Zesty, you haven't seen the state of fandom. Fandom is the best way to judge things, first off. Pretty much every lesbian couple that you've seen on television, on cartoons for the past whatever, has been transified. If you go on She-Ra, which I actually loved She-Ra, it was a really fun series. They always make Catra trans. They can't write lesbians. I was gonna say more. They can't write lesbians without making one of them have a dick. That's not related to this video, but I was reading.
Scared does not make you not transgender. It makes you normal.
I'm so bad at picking times to put things in my mouth. So basically, what he was saying was, if you would change your gender for whatever reason and be viewed as the opposite sex, that makes you trans. Except, there are many reasons why someone might not like being a woman. A lot of reasons. You can look at the many countries in the Middle East and Africa where it's almost impossible to get an education or be independent. You can look at how in the West, not a trans man, a trans identified male. You can look at many countries that treat women in a lesser way, and it can be small ways and it can be big ways, but it builds up over time to the extent where you can obviously I can look at my brother and see he's having a better adolescence than I did because he doesn't have the same amount of chores or responsibilities that I did. When I was in high school, I had to do a lot more. When I was in high school, I wanted to be a boy because my best friend was able to play video games without having to do 20 chores first and continually check in with his mom and make sure she didn't invent new ones. Like, there's obvious reasons why someone would be like, yeah, maybe I don't want to be female. And then for men, I think it's usually either it'd be easier if I was a woman to be attracted to men, or it's I have a kink and I've watched too much pornography, as one does.
Okay, a few people have asked me, how do I know if I'm trans? Well, that's kind of complicated. There's no direct checklist. Gender dysphoria is a very big sign that you're trans, but not everybody that's trans has gender dysphoria, and not everybody that experiences gender dysphoria is trans. You can experience gender dysphoria if you're cis, but it's a lot less likely, and it's only in very certain situations that that would really happen. I personally think that you already know.
The fact that so many women, particularly lesbians, have this issue of having gender dysphoria shows that it's not really that specific as you think it is. Like, the idea that just because you don't want the oppression you've been saddled with as a woman means that you don't like that, like that's you're trans. It means that we have a lot of problems to still address for women. Why is the assumption that because you're uncomfortable with your body being hypersexualized or demonized mean that you want to be a man, or that you secretly are a man on the inside because you don't agree with your own oppression? It's fucking stupid.
If you're trans, you know deep down that you don't feel right, and you know that you would like a change. Something to ask yourself is, if, you know, trans people weren't being persecuted, if society was a little bit more kind.
Prosecuted where? The countries that don't allow homosexuality allow transgenderism because they prefer you to appear straight than to be gay. Where are you being prosecuted? Like, this is this the made-up genocide in your head where you have middle-aged, middle-class white dudes going to Germany? Like, you're making this up. You're making this up. Where in America is there a genocide? Where in anywhere is there a genocide? There's literal genocides going on right now. No one's coming after your crusty ass.
And if I didn't have to come out to my parents, I didn't have to do anything, you know, if I could just press a button and transition, would I do it? If your answer is yes, you're trans. Probably. Even if you're not, there is absolutely no harm in exploring your gender. If you're getting these
fucking lies. Lies. It's fine if you're just trying like new clothes, like you're just trying makeup or new clothes, or you're cutting your hair short, because they really, gender is fashion to a lot of people. But considering that they will literally take a depressed teenager and be like, have hormones on like the first visit. That's what we talked. We had one in the last stream that illustrated this point. The first visit, they'll be like, take the hormones. So no, it's not risk-free. And even worse, you guys lie about the risks. You present binding as being safe when it's not. It deforms your ribs and gives you issues, even if you're not binding that much. The hormones that you take, testosterone, gives you osteoporosis. It gives you endocrine problems. It gives you so many issues. Even if you decide, I decide to change my mind, you still have an impact from this. I've talked to detransitioners who really discuss this because it's so under-discussed.
These feelings and you think you would like to explore a different gender identity to the one you have, that's fine. It doesn't hurt anybody. I think one of the hardest things to accept is not I'm trans, but to accept I have to tell my friends and family, and I have to commit to this thing that seems quite difficult. And that's kind of the bit that people struggle with and makes them think that maybe they're not trans, because they're doubting that, not that they are having these feelings, but that they can handle what it actually entails. I would say, do it. You're going to be a lot happier living authentically. I wish I did it years and years earlier. I would do it 100 million times over. It's been fantastic, it's been life-changing, and all of the difficulties haven't really been that difficult. They have been far, far outweighed by all of the positives, and there are so many positives. There are
the sunk cost fallacy. I'm willing to bet that, first off, we already know the data's messed up. They don't do follow-ups on people who don't return. So, like, if they just took some hormones and decided to fade off into the distance and they don't report that, they don't check up on people after they decide to stop coming in. So you don't know how many people have started hormones and then stopped. You don't know how many people start with binding or something and then stop, socially transition and then stop. We don't know this information. We don't have information on long-term effects for transitioning or detransitioning because this is all relatively new with the amount of people who are doing it. What we do have are older studies which have shown that these people are hurt. Like they're not healing from this, not even emotionally. Like there was that one Swedish study that showed that I don't know the exact number, but it's like a very large number of participants still had suicidal ideation or committed suicide 10 years after the study. Obviously this isn't working, and selling this as a cure-all to all mental illnesses is plainly just irresponsible. A lot of teenagers are going through mental health crises right now, partially from being raised up on the internet and not having the social skills to make new friends and to have a healthy social life. That is genuinely a huge problem. And so they have all these mental health issues that they can't actually treat. Because instead of saying, maybe the reason why you have PTSD and depression is because you've been hypersexualized and assaulted. No, we're not going to look into or treat those things. Here, have hormones and you'll feel better if you pretend to be a boy. I'm just so tired of this narrative that it's perfectly fine. Anyone can do it. It's not. It's not.
Feminism that doesn't include trans women isn't feminism.
You surprised to see me here? No. Okay, good. You know, it's really important to include trans women and trans people and gender nonconforming people, which, by the way, I am gender queer.
I hate when they do that. Gender nonconforming people, that's not a category of, gender. Or, just because I have short hair doesn't mean that I'm not female. You don't need to make another category because not only is that, super vague, but it's not useful. We have this issue whenever we do a psychology study where, people will, type in their own identity, and then you don't actually know who's male or female because you'll have it's fill in the blank. You fill in whatever you want. So you get non-binary, trans man, trans woman, female, girl, and you have to go through and recode all these options, and then you still don't know how truthful this is because no one asks, what is your biological sex anymore? They don't ever answer questions that way, despite it being a psychological study where sex is important.
Myself, I don't actually identify as a woman. It's really important that those...
Gender nonconforming where? You have long hair, and I didn't get a great look at you, but I can bet you're wearing makeup. Gender nonconforming where?
Of us who do have privileges, speak up for trans women in the community, especially because they're the most at risk for hate crimes.
I also want to just level.
What privilege do you have as a woman? You might have some privilege because you are white, which does have a privilege, but that privilege is also going to be affected by your being female. They don't cancel out. You don't become an oppressor because you're also happen to be white. It's not as simple or clean cut as that. And so I already did a video on this, on white women feminism, but this is something that I see people put under that category a lot, when it's really just, you have so many colleges, specifically liberal colleges, that actually do beat down white students to make them feel bad about being white. And so they want to rank the whiteness as the number one thing about their character, which only serves to polarize racial tensions. Because what happens is the women become guilt-ridden, and they forget that being female is also marginalized, and the men get super crabby about it, and then they start getting vindictive because now being white is being a minority. And you see the resulting split based on gender. But it's just really frustrating seeing this kind of rhetoric. These aren't really feminists. These are lib-fems. It's not even feminism light.
And say that we are having this conversation without trans women, right? We are sitting here today having
Do we
that
know that?
conversation without
For sure.
trans women.
Do we know that? For sure. Yeah, because if there was a trans woman in that circle, he would have immediately been like, I'm trans! Like, that's exactly what would have happened. And that's... You can tell if a trans woman is in the room when there's a woman-faced topic, because they will immediately make everyone know, and then make it their problem. Number 1. 2, I really hate this is like showboating. Who are you doing this for? Who's the audience for you flagellating? You don't even discuss feminism yet. You're flagellating because you think men are women. Okay.
I identify as
She's
trans.
on a she identifies as non-binary, and she's on a feminist panel.
My pronouns.
So maybe she doesn't belong here either. They don't.
She identifies as non-binary. She's still a fucking. She's a woman. She's still a woman. She still decided to be a feminist. She's still a woman.
Belong here.
Plot twist. I am biologically female, and I'll never deny that.
There's an issue with categorizing womanhood as a means of female. Earlier, it was mentioned by somebody on the anti-trans side about trans women coming in and taking over sports and things like that, which is just not true.
That is.
Oh, you want to bet? You can look, like, I get it. You guys don't care about female sports. You don't care about women's sports. This is a common issue with a lot of people. They don't care about it, so they think, whatever, who gives a shit? Just because I personally am not playing a sport right now doesn't mean that I want to tear down other women from having their chance to succeed in their field. Secondly, you can look at the headlines and see that a lot of trans athletes exist, and they tend to be trans women. They tend to be trans-identified males. You don't see very many trans-identified females being athletes in male sports. And you can absolutely see people take advantage of this. Leah Thomas, there you go, right off the top of my head. Lon Hubbard, whatever the fuck his name was, the weightlifter. You see it in the cycler. I remember seeing an Instagram post where he just did not understand why no one stood up with him at the podium at the end. I swear to God, there's a new headline every week about one of them taking a spot from a woman. And the thing is, the most recent, and Dylan Mulvaney isn't even an athlete, took the spot of advertising from a woman. Like, the idea that, like, they're not replacing women can easily be debunked if you just go online. You can easily see this happening in action, where spots are being taken from biological women. From women. There's no biological in it, just fucking women. Women are females. I hate having to use that language because it's Russian. I can cuss. I'm not monetizing. I hate having to use that language because it's like I'm conceding something. It's just very annoying.
True.
It's not.
It is.
It's
I can
not.
show you a number of cases.
I can show you
there
a
might be
number
people
of
that
science.
also haven't.
No, I can show you a number.
Trans women retain 30% of their biological advantage.
I love that she had to correct herself. She said, men, I'll play your game. I'll play your game. Trans women. I don't know what facts she's stating, but I appreciate that she's stating some actual facts. And I hate that there aren't any women who actually have, like, who are, like on the feminist side, who actually understand, like, biology and statistics. None of them are willing to actually stand up and divide men from feminism. Of course, it has a center around them.
That is not
If
true.
they went through male puberty, yes, it is.
That is
yes, it is.
That is not.
Let's not argue it. That's not even the prompt. So we're not going to argue about that.
Because you're wrong.
Because she's fucking right. Are you really trying to pretend that 6 foot tall? No, I know the answer. Yes, they are trying to pretend. But pretending that 6 foot tall, burly buff dude, after taking a couple months of hormones, is the same as his competition, 5'2" Sally over there. You don't even have statistics to say it's like to refute this. It's just your feelings.
If you are a trans woman and you walk out in the world and you are seen as a man, you do not belong in women's spaces. I don't care what anybody says. I think that's ridiculous, and I think even trans women that have gender dysphoria that go through transition will agree with me.
This makes me so incredibly uncomfortable that we're even having this conversation.
You could go back
about
over
that.
there if you really wanted to.
Ooh.
I love that. She said, if you're uncomfortable, then leave. That's something that's really prevalent in liberal spaces. I've been in a liberal arts school before, and that's how it is. They make it to where if you're uncomfortable in any way, then you should leave. You shouldn't ever face criticism, because criticism hurts your feelings. We wouldn't want that to happen, now would we? And so you never have a chance to actually defend your stances. Like, you have to defend what you stand for. If you honestly believe it's true, then let it be criticized. Let yourself rebut it. Tell me that you have a rebuttal that actually can stand up against the fact that this is an existing problem and that biological sex is real. Go ahead and try to argue yourself out of that one.
Took all of that off the table, right? If we're not talking about who can play sports with whom, can people exist as who they are?
Absolutely. Yeah, they can exist as men who want to wear female clothes. I'm fine with that. You want to be a man and you want to dress in female clothes and present yourself as a woman. Honestly, I don't care. I think many people didn't care until you started taking people being polite and like, well, oh, they have a mental illness, we'll use she, her to make him feel better. They took that one little step and said, well, now we're going to take all of your scholarships, all of your awards, your sports. We're going to take, your bathrooms. Like, they went in and took everything after being given one step. They took an inch, we gave them an inch, they took a mile. So no, trans women do not belong in female spaces or in feminism because they're not men.
It sounded like you were saying if a trans woman doesn't look like what you perceive as looking like a woman, they shouldn't be in feminist spaces.
I didn't say that. I said they shouldn't be in female spaces.
Okay.
Not feminist spaces.
Okay.
I think women...
I disagree with that, but
that's
okay.
fine. It makes sense to biologically classify people. It also makes sense to socially classify people.
There are women who biologically cannot produce. There are females, people assigned female at birth, who biologically cannot produce.
So, infertile women exist. Infertile women exist, and they love using them as fucking pawns. Just because she cannot have a child does not make her less of a woman. You defining her by her ability to have a child is you reducing her to her biological essentialism. That is you reducing her to her parts. Because we only had to go into this detail about what makes a woman up when you decided to be stupid about it. We didn't have to do this. We could, go back 10 years and say, if you are a woman, raise your hand, and you would get the correct amount of people raising their hands because they knew what a woman was. Didn't matter if you had PCOS or hair or infertility or were black, because they love to bring in black women and be like, well, black women, they're the same thing as men. Shut up. I'm so tired of this argument. I'm so tired of it.
Are you saying that those female women should not be able to have say in those laws?
That's
either?
not what I'm saying at all. I guess my main issue with trans women...
I also want to point out that came out of nowhere, because no one said the trans woman has to be infertile. They said that the trans woman is still male, and males don't belong in feminism. And I can see that she's trying to play by their rules. Not males, trans woman, she's making an effort. And this is like an anti-feminist who has a better understanding of a basic tenet of feminism, is that it applies to women. And trans women are not included in that because they're not women. That's a misnomer. They're men.
Being seen as women and not being seen as trans women is they're changing the definition of women and expecting everybody to go along with that. And that affects me, yes, they are. And that affects me directly. You say trans women are women are trans women. It's a very different experience.
Trans women are women.
Oh, the mantras. I love that it's just the one woman there who's arguing against them all. I appreciate that. I appreciate her standing up on this. But oh my gosh, this is the arguments that y'all are trying to bring to her, and you don't even have arguments. You're just reciting mantras. It's just like someone saying, I don't believe that guy levitated last week. Levitating Joe levitated. Okay, but I don't believe he levitated. I could see the strings. Levitating Joe levitated. You're not proving anything. You're just shouting louder than the other person.
Well, we're just going to agree to disagree with that. If you ask feminists at a women's march what a woman is, they can't even define it. How can you protect something and empower something that you don't?
Yeah, let me just say that I love that. I don't watch that show or YouTube channel or whatever. I harvest from Tumblr. I make you guys do the work for me. You didn't see me drop my microphone. But I'm so tired of these conversations existing when they refuse to platform radical feminists. When they do, it's usually outnumbered or silenced. Same way that the detransitioner in the last stream was pretty much talked over the entire time. And then no one ever actually hosts these like a real discussion. No one does that where it's like, say your point, well, what's your rebuttal? Like, they need to have like a better moderator to force people to actually respond and stay on point and to call out fallacies, because I think that if you do that, you'd have a better chance of actually making some progress and getting people to realize how stupid their arguments are. Like, shouting trans women are women, you didn't argue anything. You didn't argue anything against what she said. They just pulled random shit out of the air that they've been taught to say, and that was the only defense they had. It wasn't, oh, well, here's an example of somebody who took hormones and now they're at a weakerness or whatever. They didn't do any of that. And I think that's emblematic of just in general the issue of critical thought not being really taught in schools anymore. I think it's been an issue for a long time, to be honest, because the public school system is built to make factory drones, not free thinkers. But I think we've seen a real decrease because people don't read anymore. Like, the average reading literacy of most like adults is like a 6th grader. And I think that is kind of how we get to this point where you have these nonsense arguments where you have two nonsense people talking at each other. One might sound like they have a point for a second, but typically the conservative will immediately go from women are female and it is important to have sex expert spaces so that women can succeed in certain areas. And then one stance later, they'll be like, and I think all women should wear dresses and men should be masculine. And then you never get anywhere when both people are arguing from emotion. That was my point.
That's the part of the case I've never understood. He's either drunk and high and incapable of even standing up, or he's drunk and high and able to attack her, chase her, land blows. It just doesn't make sense.
All hidden. You're right, Camille. It doesn't make any sense. People don't get into bar fights when they've had too much to drink. And there are no drugs that make people either aggressive or violent or anything like that. The thing is, this kind of playing dumb is really going to backfire on you. Because you notice how it's never Benjamin Chew who's saying stupid shit like this. It's always Camille. And so when the tide fully turns, and it will, no one's going to remember Ben Chew because Ben Chew wasn't front and center running his mouth. And that's kind of by design.
I agree with him here. I think that the whole Depp case was a clusterfuck to begin with. It shouldn't have gone to court. When it did, they made it into a public spectacle, which they shouldn't have done. But you're seeing a slow tide turning with this case where some people are starting to wake up. And it wasn't like they were just like people who were, a lot of them were women, a lot of them were stans. A lot of them made videos that were like, oh, she said he choked her. I would love to be choked by Johnny Depp. Like, they made these stupid hypersexual videos. They fandomized it. And I think that when the tides turn, what's going to happen is all these women who are willing to go to bat for the idea of a male victim are going to be the ones who are strung up and paraded and being said, 10 years ago you said that Johnny Depp was the victim. And it's going to be the women who are really vocal about this, who are so like, she's a liar, women can be abusers too. They're the ones who are going to bear the brunt of the backlash. Because when men say these things, they get off pretty much scot-free. Like, there was a Vogue editor in 2019 who got fired because literally 10 years earlier she had made a racist tweet that she'd apologized for 2 years before getting the position. And she had to quit the job before it even started. And compare that to the myriad of YouTubers who have said racist, anti-Semitic, homophobic stuff and still have huge platforms. They managed to get over that just fine, and most of them are male. The minute that a woman makes any mistake on YouTube, she is gone. You can easily see the gender divide there.
Camille Vasquez, as of right now, is useful, and she was useful during the trial. Have her destroy another woman. Have her be extremely mean to another woman. Have her use all of the horrendous victim-blaming tropes. It serves two functions. It is at the same time credibility, and it's also at the same time insurance against accusations of misogyny. And when society snaps out of its collective malaise as to what it's done to Amber Heard, they're gonna want to blame someone. Do you think they're gonna be blaming Ben Chew? Of course not. Victim-blaming mean girl-in-chief Camille Vasquez is gonna get it in the neck. I almost feel sorry for her. Or I would if she wasn't such a fucking garbage person. Never forget that according to the High Court of the United Kingdom, Johnny Depp is still a wife-beater, and if the crazy-ass Deptford wives don't get to me, I'll see you guys next time.
That's part of the case I've never...
Yeah, I like his accent. I'm gonna be honest, I like his accent. But he put it into words, basically. You're gonna see scapegoats for this. And in the same way that, what's his name, Epstein, it was only the woman who actually went to jail. All the people who visited the island, all the people who were involved, none of them have faced any consequences. The woman was the scapegoat. And I don't mean to say that, like, they don't deserve some sort of retribution for what they did, but I find it very odd and very telling that these women often end up facing the consequences completely alone. And Johnny Depp he's still working. He's still failing at working. He's not really facing any consequences still, because the reason why he wasn't getting work in the first place that started the whole lawsuit wasn't because he was a wife beater. It was because he's a horrible person.
And my mum worked in the city. So my mum is, my mum's very non-binary, to be quite honest. She's very, very strong and powerful. She wears suits most of the time.
Okay, I'm not sure if I'm right, because it's been a long time since I've cared about celebrities. I think that's Sam Smith. It could be some other generic gay white guy. But the argument that my mom wore suits, she wasn't a homemaker sitting at home wearing a dress barefoot and pregnant. She wore a suit. And you know what that means? It means she can't be a woman because women don't wear suits. He put it into words. The stupidity of the argument, the regressiveness of the argument, that if you don't like gender roles for women, you think they're confining and bad and not accurate, well, that doesn't mean that we should change things because they're inaccurate and don't represent most women. You know, we're not vapid creatures of no thoughts who are all obsessed with, vanity. We're people. But no, it's, my mom was a person, so obviously she was non-binary and she's not a woman. Okay.
Big cat, damn homie, where's the drip at? Got this chick in the car, she complaining too much, told her sit back.
Listen, I'm not here to tear down this child, but I just want to start like a discussion that needs to be had. I feel as though social media has really manipulated these young girls to want to have sex appeal and want to be sexy to the point of no return, and really it is normalizing pedo behavior, and that's what they do not understand. It's just very sad that these young girls do not have people their age to look up to that's not trying to fit this sexual narrative. Like, without makeup, you look 13, and that's perfectly fine. And by no means is this me victim blaming, but this is the introduction to something way bigger that y'all need to understand. And this is why these predators can say, oh, I didn't know she was this age. You have girls this age trying to compete with grown-ass women. And this is being glamorized to the point that you have minors that's saying that they can't wait till they be 18 so they could be S-workers. Like, no, y'all need to stop.
Yeah, I really don't have, well, that's a lie. I always have things to say. But I agree with what she was saying. I agree with what she's saying. Because not only, like, when I was 13, I shopped at Justice. Okay? When I was 13, I shopped at Justice. And it was the most bright, neon-colored shit ever, you know? I had like fuzzy white leg warmers with glitter in them. I had a collection of earrings that were all polymer clay, like food earrings that weighed like 10 pounds per ear. I looked 13. Like, I didn't look like an adult, and that's because there was a market aiming for the tween audience, which they don't do anymore. They aim for children, which are still pretty sexualized considering the the amount of fabric that goes into making short shirts or whatever, they don't cover as much for girls as boys. But then there's a child market and there's a teen market. There is no tween market where you're allowed to be a little bit silly and cringe and have interests. You're not allowed to have that. So there is no breathing room for these girls to actually have little cultures of their own. And then, of course, when I was growing up, I watched the Disney Channel. I watched Cartoon Network and Nickelodeon. So the kids that I saw on TV were wearing all those really stupid, like, 5-layer outfits and, you know, like the outfits that were just like really bright and snazzy. Like Harper from Wizards of Waverly Place, she made me want to be a fashion designer. I was always making really crazy, stupid outfits because of that. I was able to see myself reflected in people who I wanted to be. And so because they were still wearing age-appropriate stuff, it wasn't an issue when I copied them. But when all these kids, they don't watch TV like that anymore. They don't. When I've been babysitting for the past literally 4 or 5 years, kids don't watch TV, they watch YouTube. And what's on YouTube? People doing their makeup. Half the time when you're watching like a video essay, the woman is doing a full face of makeup. TikTok, they're giving some take. Even if, like, half the time, even if it's a feminist take, they're doing a full face of makeup. And so they don't actually see anything to emulate but that hypersexual image. And it doesn't help that you have people like the Bimbo Girl or Dylan Mulvaney and all these gender people to copy. So you have the girls who go for, I want to be hyper feminine because that's the only role I see. And you have the girls who see the gender route and go, well, I don't want to be hypersexualized and hyper feminine, so I'll go that route. And there's no middle route where you're allowed to just be female and dress normal and not have to worry about your appearance or your sexualization when you're 13. There is no space for growing up right now. And that's really, really depressing. And I think it's going to have a lot of consequences later on for the way we treat abuse. Because a lot of people do 100% use well, she looked older. And a lot of these girls legitimately do look older. But that's not enough. When you go to a club, you ask, how old are you? When you pick up girls, if you're outside of a middle school, you might want to ask, how old are you? That's not an excuse.
Feminism is broken, and it has been broken since the beginning. Even if you're not transphobic.
The equivalence of feminism with transphobia. Gotta love that. That is like the number one thing they love to do. You want to mention that like sexism is a thing, that misogyny exists? Are you secretly transphobic? Because you mentioned that women are real, they're not mythical creatures, and that means you're transphobic because, you know, having a fucking brain is transphobic.
Feminism is still a tool of white supremacy, and it is dominated by white women who have no interest in dismantling patriarchy.
I'm gonna go back, actually. That was so stupid. I have to go back.
Tool of white supremacy, and it is dominated by white women.
She said, feminism is a tool of white supremacy. Do I even need to comment on how stupid that is? Do I even have to comment on the stupidity of that? Because, first off, feminism isn't just something that happens in the US and the Western Europe. It's happening all around the world. There are plenty of women of color who are feminists. And in fact, majority of radical feminists are not online on Twitter tweeting shit about trans people. They're working and making female-only villages and working on enacting actual change in laws. Like, feminism is not something that has been only for white women. You can look back through women's history and see that plenty of women of color have made huge changes in the way that we treat women in the US. Like, the audacity of claiming that all the countries around the world didn't have misogyny until the white man brought it? The number one system that has always existed everywhere is the patriarchy. That is universal. The claim that, the people in Africa were just too stupid to know which ones popped out the babies and which ones didn't. I hate that argument so much, and it's always by white people like this who think that they're being anti-racist, but they're not. Anti-racism has been co-opted by anti-intellectuals and anti-feminists who are aware of what they're doing because they want you to be unable to make actual change. That's what they want. They want to make it to where it's impossible for us to get actual change because we're so busy infighting and so busy arguing over things that aren't even true.
who have no interest in dismantling patriarchy because it is simply a tool of white supremacy. So what do we do instead? What is our solution to broken feminism? I find that womanism is the best theory and practice to achieve true equality within society. The term and theory was created by Alice Walker as a means to center Black women and the love between women as a means of liberation.
That just sounds like lesbian feminism to me. Like, that just, like, and a lot of lesbian feminism isn't even looking at, like, widespread, like, political change. Some of it is, but a lot of it is, like, deeply personal changes in your life to enact change. So, radical feminism is seeking for women's liberation. It wants political action. And what you're describing is what? Just liking women and sitting at home?
I encourage you to do your own research because I, as a white person, have no place to speak on this subject authoritatively, but I can still look to Black women as leaders as we discuss how to dismantle patriarchy as well as white supremacy because the two are intertwined. We can't have one without the other.
Yeah, I disagree. We have patriarchy, plenty of places that white people don't exist. You can go to Japan. I was just there, and it's very patriarchal. Okay? Dragon Fox, you took my words, and now they sound bad. It's not what I meant. Well, it is what I meant, but not the way that it looks when you type it out like that. I've just noticed there's a whole anti-intellectualness where people will fling across these huge big words. They don't actually read beyond the quotes on pages, and they think that they understand the theory when they don't, when they're just flinging around big words. But that was a really stupid one for me. That was just a really stupid one for me. Because if you leave the US, you will realize that patriarchy exists in ways that are different than what Americans face. Like, there's different pressures in Mexico than there are in Spain, than there are in Australia, than there are in Japan. There are different pressures for women around the world. The only thing that's in common is that it's typically centered around sexuality, subservience, and reproductive ability. And when you start walking around and you start looking at these things and you realize and you connect all these dots, it's evident that, like, no, the white man did not bring across, to just not spread across the whole world this stuff. And the thing is, these arguments are often really tied to the idea that feminism isn't enough on its own. Misogyny isn't a big enough beast by itself, so they have to buff it up by throwing in other shit too, so people actually respect it. Because, like, if you look at other videos, it'll be like, oh, they're coming after the no-fault marriage next. See, we told you this would happen once they came after trans people, because, you know, they're going to go after other people too. They never seem to understand that being a woman is still a marginalized class. They completely overlook that in every argument. They prefer to focus on race, on class sometimes, so they often conflate race with class. Because I can assure you, not every white woman out there is rich and able to go afford to fly out of state for an abortion. Most white women are working class, like the rest of us. And the division that this causes is this, we just get nowhere. Because you get people who react to the surface value of what they're saying. You get people who just don't understand it but copy the language. That's why we have all these freaking mantras. All right, we've got one last.
Of all the days to decide you want to prank her wedding day. With her wedding dress on, all the friends, family there, you decide to pull a prank on your wedding day. The thing about it is, I keep seeing videos like this where grooms are humiliating their new wives on their wedding day. I remember seeing a video recently where it was this woman and they were about to like do the whole like cake thing, feeding the other person cake. And the wife was like, please don't smash it in my face. Like,
Okay, I just want to point out, like, I think it's not as popular now, or maybe I'm not on TikTok unless I'm looking for a very specific thing. So maybe I just don't see it. But the whole trend of like doing a really mean-spirited joke on your significant other. Like, I've seen ones that are like, I make my girlfriend think that she smells horrible and I make her cry. Or I make my girlfriend think that I'm cheating on her. Or this one, which is, I'm going to play a prank where my wife the person whom I just married or I'm about to marry, who just probably spent a good $120 at least on just the makeup. Often you can go into $500 or more for bridal makeup. Along with dresses, it often costs $1,000 or more. I'm going to be completely cruel to her on this day she's probably planned for months on end because it'll be funny. Won't it be so funny for her to fall into water? Won't it be so funny if I smear cake all over that very expensive makeup on a day when you're supposed to be being the center of attention and get a bunch of pictures taken? So it's not even like she'll be able to go back into the back and fix her hair or makeup. They do a lot of effort on the hair. They do a lot of effort on the makeup. It's meant to stay there all day. If that gets messed up, you're just kind of screwed. The makeup person went home hours ago. And I just can't believe that they think it's funny when it's just cruel. There's nothing funny about it. It's just cruel.
And she's like,
and the thing is, this isn't like a slap fight where you're playing with someone and it slowly builds up to being a little too much. You know from the beginning that that's a horrible thing to do because she's fighting back so hard. She's obviously not thinking it's funny. There's a difference between smear, versus they're literally doing something they know is wrong because they have to work so hard to do it. How can you do that and think that this is funny? You're doing it in front of all your friends and family. So not only are you doing it in public, but you're doing it in front of everyone you care about. So they all know you're a jackass. And you didn't think this through? You thought it was funny?
Upset. People spend money. They actually pay people to do their makeup on their wedding day. It's who wants cake in your nose or in your hair in the photos at a wedding? It's not funny. And if you guys remember recently, a couple went viral with this man absolutely humiliating his new bride in his vow.
I was and always will be one of the easiest people to please. Only 2 things are required to keep me happy: keep my belly full and my balls empty. Though you're amazing at half of it, we really need to get you some cooking lessons.
I could see someone having a relationship where they don't mind those jokes, but why at the altar? You could potentially make that a humorous toast at, the dinner table later. But at the altar? That's... You're sexualizing your wife in front of her entire friends and family group. If my significant other made a joke about me sexually in front of my parents, no. That is extremely uncalled for and inappropriate. But to do it in front of everyone that you both know, and you still think... And at the moment when you're supposed to be saying that you love this person and will love them forever. Guys, it's not that hard to do good vows. If you really want some help, Grey's Anatomy had Burke do some really great ones back in season 5 or 6. Copy something from something online. Go on ChatGPT and write something. Don't write it your damn self because obviously you don't know how to write vows saying you love somebody, rather that you see her as a fuck nanny.
What is it with some of these men deciding that their wedding day is the day they want to humiliate their new bride? I feel like there's a part of them that resents the fact that they had to marry you. They didn't want to lose you. They didn't want you to leave. They knew that it would be over, that you gave them a time frame or something. I feel like their way of getting back at you for making them dress up and making them do this thing is for them to try to humiliate you on that day. I could be tripping, but stuff like this is not cute. You are too old to think stuff like this is funny. Not on the wedding day.
So yeah, that was the last TikTok that I have. But I just want to say, I think that she is on to something. I do think that she's on to something. Some guys are probably looking at this as a damn it, I have to actually pay for the cow scenario. But I think it's more like sunk cost fallacy. I think it's that they thought that they've already bought the woman, so they don't have to try anymore. That's what I think this is. I think that it's, we're already getting married, we're at the altar, I can take off the mask. I don't have to play nice anymore because it's already too late. She's not going to walk out from the wedding. Like, that's what I think it is, honestly. Because a lot of people, I'm going to pause on what I was saying. Grey's Anatomy has gotten too preachy. I stopped watching in about season 16. They added on a non-binary character. They had someone have a crush on Grey. They do preaching a lot more, and it's always been something that obviously has, like, political messaging to an extent. Like, there was a lot of scenes that were, like, obviously a special lesson, but they were entertaining and they didn't feel, like, obtrusive. Like, when Izzy had, like, the pictures of her lingerie spread taped around the room, like, that's an obvious lesson about not objectifying people. But it didn't come off as, like, out of place. The more recent episodes feel like they're really out of place, so I stopped watching a while ago. Also, like, they should have stopped the show a while ago. Like, Meredith isn't even on the show anymore. How are you gonna have Grey's Anatomy without Grey? If you wanted to have, like, a classes moving up thing, you kind of missed that a while ago. Anyway, back to the marriage thing. I mean, I really do think that when it comes to getting married, a lot of guys view it as like, this is it. I've got the fuck nanny for life. I don't have to try any harder. But the time when the mask comes off changes for many people. Sometimes it's after they move in together. It's after they've bought property. It's after they have a kid together. It's going to be when they think that there is too much invested in it or it's too late to back out. And think about it. I mean, like, there's plenty of women who decide, I'm going to, you know, stop working when we were both financially stable and I can afford to be a stay-at-home mom. Nothing wrong with that idea, except for the fact that it means that you all don't have any work experience now. And even if you were a college graduate and you were marketable, staying out of the market, like, out of the job market for a long time means that it's really hard to get a job afterwards that pays decent money. And so if you decide to become a stay-at-home mom, well, he has no obligation to do anything. Like, he's got you trapped because now you don't have any money. You don't have any job prospects. You don't have the ability to move out and be independent anymore. And you can see that at pretty much any step. Oh, we bought a house together. It'll be too difficult to get to financially split it, so I'll just stay and stick it through. Oh, you know, we're already at the altar in front of all my friends. I'm not going to embarrass myself. I'm going to stick it through. And I think that's what these videos really were. Was like the guy realizing that he could be cruel. He could have that humor. He could go ahead and take off that mask and be who he wanted to be because he's not going to do anything about it. And in all these bride videos, the women went through with the wedding. Yeah, they were pissed about it, and I imagine that they had not fun wedding night, but they still didn't rip up the certificate. They didn't say, fuck this, I'm out. They're still there. And honestly, if someone did that to me, I would walk off from the altar. Welcome to the party. We're not getting married now. Give me that paper. Rip. We're not there anymore. So yeah, that's all of my TikToks and videos that I had recorded for this session. I think next time we'll do a movie just because it'll be fun and I don't have to go mining for social media stuff. And I'm sure that I can find episodes or movies or something that I can commentate on because obviously I can talk a lot. This is the part of the stream where I can answer any questions that you guys have. Oh, I'm out of food. No, it's not a treat. It's mango. It's not a treat. It's mango. It's not a treat, buddy. Girl. I'm dog sitting, so yes, dog. I opened dried mango, as you probably heard, and she wanted some. Have you ever interacted with Radical Ramblings or Lisa Michelle? Radical Ramblings and I were planning to do a content together. But now that I am living in the time zone where no one lives, it's become kind of difficult to plan for those. Like, when I was trying to interview Kara Dingsky last year, I had to wait until I came back to the US to get it right because it was just so difficult being 12 hours from the Eastern. I think that I will reach out again and try to get something solidified. And there is somebody else that I did reach out to who said yes, who I'm going to do a collaboration with in July. But I'm going to leave that as a surprise. I'm still in Cambodia. Well, I went back to the US and then I went back to Cambodia. If that makes sense. I didn't do a video about it this time because I thought I mentioned it in other videos. But more or less it was, I have 2 months left of college online. I didn't like having to work 50-hour weeks to stay afloat. I figured I could just cruise here for a couple months and then apply for teaching jobs around the world and figure out what I got accepted to. And then work somewhere for a decent price for a year to get money for a master's program and then hopefully go to Italy or something. I really want to go to Italy. This is a comment question. Why do you think women still think they'll get respect during marriage when that was literally invented to hold them down in the first place? This is still mango. It's still not for you. Well, basically, I'm sorry, that was like a hot minute of me chewing. I think that a lot of women have this idea of like benevolent sexism in their minds, right? Like, especially if you come from a traditionalist Christian or religious background, you are raised from a young age and told that like, you will find the man who completes you and he'll love you and you will love serving him and it'll be great and you'll be in love. And you're raised this idea of like the big party, it's all for you, the wedding. You're raised with this idea of like, you're going to love being a mother. You're raised with these ideas. And so a lot of people don't even think about it as like the roots of what marriage is. Marriage, the point of marriage was to give property from father to husband. You literally take on the name of your husband like you're being branded with his name like property. But a lot of people just don't think about it that way. They think about it in terms of the sparkly dress and the commitment of love for a lifetime. And I have to admit, even I have like I grew up in the South. Like, I do like the idea of a wedding. I do like the idea of being, like, of committing to somebody. But you have to think about it. Especially in hetero marriages. We're even looking at, like, no-fault divorce being taken off in the next coming years. That's the next thing that Republicans are going after. If you get married, that person has a lot of attachments to you that are hard to disentangle from. It's very hard to remain free and independent when that happens. And it's just not something that most people think about when it comes to marriage. They think about the party. Critical Kitty, I want to know, did you ship Mare and DeLuca? Or did you just pick two random people that you really liked? Because I probably would have gone for, like, Mare and Christina. I know Christina's a human name, but I name pets human names. But isn't it sad that you have to give yourself to a man in order to get those gifts? I think it is. But a lot of women see it as being their place in life. Like, I'm not religious. I haven't been for a very long time. But most people who are raised in a religious environment take those, it's not just emotional abuse, for example. It's spiritual abuse. Because if you believe in an afterlife and you're being told that you have to act a certain way to get the good afterlife, it's not just emotional abuse, it is abuse that's impacting you because it's something that you're thinking about beyond your current lifetime. And a lot of Christians do read the scripture and read that, like, woman must lie under man, and they read these things, and so the submissiveness is not seen as like a bad thing. It's seen as your duty. God wants you to act this way. I think it's sad that religion can be used in such a way, and it often is, especially because, I mean, believe what you want. Personally, I don't care about religion to a huge extent, except for the fact that pretty much every religion, and I mean this, every religion is based on the subordination of women. Like, every single one is a man created life instead of females, and women, as told in the holy book or the good book or the whatever book, they're supposed to be subservient, and that's a whole issue. The snails started... Oh, for some reason I thought you called these cats. I thought your cats were called Mare and DeLuca. And so when I read the second message, and you were like, the snails started mating, I was like, when did that happen in the show? Well, Critical Kitty, I think, considering that gay marriage is so recent and probably going to be reversed in the next 10 years, and that it offers a lot of benefits when it comes to, like, just everyday things. If someone dies, if your long-term partner dies or is in a medical issue, you want to be able to have a claim that, proves that they're allowed to be in there and to make those calls. My dad's made it very clear that if one of us ever, like anyone in the immediate family, ends up in an accident where we have, like, vegetableness, that he will smother us with a pillow. He doesn't, or unplug us or whatever. I don't want my dad to make that decision. I don't trust him. I would want my wife to do that. And so while I really think the biggest danger is with hetero marriage here, which sounds hypocritical, but considering the many ways that you could be tied to a man legally that can make it difficult to leave, having a kid, having marriage, I think it's something you have to really think through. And yeah, you can get like a civil partnership, but most people just spring for marriage because it's like civil partnership, marriage just doesn't seem worth going for the lower thing. Any other questions? We've been on for like an hour and 40 minutes, not counting the fuck up at the beginning. So I give it another 5-10 minutes for anything else you want to talk about. Unless you want to just sit here and watch me eat dried mango. Oh, the Russian guy mentioned copyright. I'm not monetizing these, and like I don't mind if they don't get like I'm recording it on my own because I realize you can't download the recording from YouTube to edit. So if I did like, let's watch But I'm a Cheerleader, or let's watch the gay episodes of blah blah blah, I would just edit it a lot before reposting it, so it wouldn't be an issue. You can leave, Russian dude. There's like 16 other people. And I don't have to go to bed yet. It's only 12:30. I liked dried mango because it's like eating fruit leather. Maybe a weird question, but what are your opinions on hair dye? I dyed my hair a lot. One day I'll find pictures of it to show you guys, but like in high school, I went from like henna dye. Henna dye never comes out. Don't ever do that unless you're like got gray hairs and you don't want them. That shit never comes out. I went to Sally Beauty Supply and tried doing my own hair. The guy who did my hair messed it up really badly. It was super light, bleached wrong. It was supposed to be pink. It came out like a puce. So I've done pinkish puce. I've done really dark blue. I've done red. I've done black. Now I don't do it anymore because of the upkeep. What I would say is that people do use it for like fun, and I think the really bright colors are still kind of fun. But when you look at them, who's having the really brightly colored hair? It tends to be women. When it comes to just regular hair dye, it's another like sex selective thing. Women find gray hair in guys attractive for whatever reason. I don't get why seeing that your guy's expiring is attractive to you, but some people think that. My mom does. So most men, even though there are hair products for dyeing the grays, don't use it because women actively find that attractive. But when a woman starts going gray, she's a hag, she's expired, we don't like her. So on one hand, yeah, personal expression, whatever. I mean, obviously I have a shit ton of tattoos. I appreciate the idea of being able to control your appearance to a certain degree. But there's also health issues because, as per usual, we don't really do a lot of research in the long-term effects of beauty stuff. We just found out with the hair straighteners, the perms, that it is, like, it caused uterine cancer in a lot of people, and considering that it was mostly black women who used it, that means black women who also typically don't get diagnosed until late are the ones who are primarily affected. And so I just feel like 10 years down the line we're going to hear about, like, how bleaching your hair and dyeing it might have caused cancer or something. I mean, if you want to do it, go ahead, we all take risks. But I just think about it, especially if you're going for, like, I need to cover my grays. I have questionable taste in women. I think that Carol from The Walking Dead is also very attractive with the gray hair. I've never found gray hair to be bad. I knew a girl who went, like, completely gray in senior year of high school. It did make her look a bit older, but, like, you can definitely flaunt that. And if you earned it, like, you earned it. My tattoos are not copyrighted Russian, dude. Everything that I have is, like, individually designed for me. So I think that's about it. I'm pretty sure, like, there's no, like, unless you have a question that you're gonna pop in the next 1 minute, then I will let you go. I've held you hostage for long enough. Would you make a video about Transformers / IDW / Earthspark stuff type commentary video sometime? Okay, I've got a secret. Back in 2020, I had this idea for a Transformers podcast. And I actually reached out to the guy who wrote a couple episodes of the Transformers 1984 cartoon. This guy, I didn't do much research. I was like, oh, there's his website. Hi, can I interview you about Transformers? And he was like, sure, but don't ask me anything about Star Wars. And I was like, that's fine. I've never even seen Star Wars. So we talked for like an hour. I have a phone recording of it. I'm pretty sure I have it on this computer somewhere. I have to look. But this hour-long interview, and he tells me about how the writing things have changed since then. And, like, it's a really great conversation. He's actually what inspired me to, like, move around the world and just do whatever I want. Like, he mentioned how, like, he switched careers, like, a bunch of times because he just enjoyed it. Anyway, long story short, at the end of it, you know, I finished the recording. I tell my best friend who's also in the Transformers. I was like, oh, yeah, I interviewed this guy. And he was like, he wrote The Empire Strikes Back. That's why he didn't want you to ask about Star Wars. So yeah, I have a 3-year-old recording somewhere about this that I could use I would like to post eventually. But yeah, I could do a video about Transformers. I just don't think anybody would be interested in it besides Transformers freaks like me. If you're interested, I can rant about that shit for days. Female Doctor Who regeneration at the time it happened. Do you see this as a trans thing more than a female empowerment thing? I didn't like it. And, like, if you look at, like, commentary about it, a lot of the guys, they tend to be anti-feminist either way, or, like, the general misogyny levels of a guy. But they'll point out that the issue isn't necessarily that she's female. It's that she doesn't feel like the Doctor. Like, you can have characters that change, like Doctor Who, obviously, each iteration is different in some way. But all of them still feel like the Doctor. She doesn't feel like the Doctor. I don't think it was a trans thing, because it was, when it happened in the UK, I don't think the trans thing was bursting the way it is today. I think that they just thought we haven't done a female Doctor forever, and if it's really like this, there should be one eventually. The issue that I have with her isn't that, like, she's female. The issue is that they didn't write her correctly. And then the Doctor apparently is attracted to women. I've only ever seen him with women. So that's going to automatically make that a gay relationship because women. But yeah, I think it's another example of how they're just not very good at making new shows with like diverse casts. They can't ever just write characters normally. They have to write them super special if they're diverse, and that makes people hate them as from a fan. Anyway, I think we're good. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I think I'm going to try to do another one on Sunday, which will probably be Sunday morning for you if you're America-ish. I think we're going to do either cartoon reviews or a movie commentary. Or, if you want to help me out, you can send me TikToks, because I don't like going on that Petrid site.